So yesterday was a day that will go down in the history books. Yes, it was another Christmas with the Salvation Army, and the first for a number of people, including under the leadership of the staff band for our own Andrew Burdett, but that's not what I'm talking about, as exciting as that is. Then there was my Penguins blowing a 5-1 lead with 15 minutes left in the third period, and their former goalie, Tristan Jarry, leading the Oilers to a dominating defeat of the Maple Leafs, but I'm not going to talk about that either. No, last night is one that will go down in history because for the last time ever in a WWE ring, John Cena had a match. Now, I know there will be some here that are going to question why I'm talking about this, why I still care in my 40s about wrestling, will remind me that it's scripted like all good TV shows are. But last night was one of those nights where it didn't matter. It didn't even matter that he lost his last match because this was the end of a 23-year-long career of one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time. A man with more world championships, 17, than anyone else in their company's history, who's also a platinum certified rapper, a major movie star and commercial star, a Grand Slam WWE champion, meaning he's won all of their major belts, won over 78% of his career matches, but a guy who outside of the ring has dedicated his life to making the world a better place through messages of support for those who are overlooked and inspiration for everyone, and who over the last 23 years has granted more make-a-wish wishes than any other person in the history of the world. He's visited with 650 different children granting their wish. He truly is one of the greats in his industry and one of the most famous people in the world. But what you might not know about him, and perhaps most unlikely about him, is that for the last 2 or 3 years, John Cena has been a follower of mine on X, or the app that was formerly known as Twitter. And if you don't believe me, I can show you on the way out. Now, I hesitate to share that with you because this is going to go on the internet, and I'm not really sure why he follows me, how it happened, or even when it started. Just one day I was looking for someone on my followers list, and there he was, John Cena. I obviously assumed it was a joke or a mistake. This guy with 12.7 million followers and who follows only 1 million people chose me and my 95 other followers. But it is him, and yes, he's still there, following me today in spite of the lack of posts I make and my obscurity in comparison to him. An extremely unlikely person for him to follow, but not the most unlikely thing to ever happen. Now, hear me when I say I'm not comparing John Cena to God, but I am going to stretch close to that. Because John following me is a little more likely than the decision ultimately that God made in picking Mary. And Mary is singing about, what Mary is singing about in our selected passage of scripture for this morning. God looked down after generations and generations of preparing his people for their Messiah to come, and of all people, he chose Mary. Mary, who would say, "My soul glorifies the Lord, my spirit rejoices. He has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me. Holy is his name." Mary, who it's believed would have been somewhere between 12 to 14 years old, a child and a woman, not a great combination if you're looking to be included or asked for your input in that time in that part of the world. Who was from Nazareth, a place that we would hear in the life of Jesus was nowhere, and the people would say nothing good ever came from that place. So this child from nowhere who was not yet married and who was not of a noble family, who was really nothing special or anything that would have been impressive in the eyes of the world. A young woman from nowhere who was pledged to marry a regular guy with a regular job, a carpenter, who for sure was a very distant relation to King David. an ordinary couple who traveled to Bethlehem for the census and didn't even have a place to stay, we read in the story of Jesus' birth. And so were offered a spot sleeping out in the open with the animals the night that he was born. This was not the family that was supposed to be the ones bringing the promised Savior of his people into the world. On the surface, this is not the woman that should have been doing it. But this is exactly who God needed to bring him into this world, because she was unlikely, yes, but she was uniquely gifted for the role as well. Because of who she was and the background we have just heard, but also because of what she was made of. The gifts and abilities she'd been blessed with, making her humble and resilient, faithful and trusting, dedicated and courageous. She was unlikely and at the same time extraordinary. Extraordinary because in spite of all of the reasons why not, and in the midst of the most hectic moment of her life, she was filled with a deep peace that her son would bring into the world, knowing that while she knew she didn't belong in that role, that the one who called her to it would care for her through it because she had seen it before. Mary had seen it through the stories passed down from generation to generation of her people. She'd seen it in the lives of those most need in her community. She maybe even had experienced it in her own life to this point as well. We see evidence of this in her song when she says, "He is faithful from generation to generation. He brought down rulers and lifted the humbled, filled the hungry with good things, sent the rich away hungry, helped his servants Israel be merciful to their descendants forever." Mary knew that she could be confident in him choosing her, as unlikely as she was, because God had a habit of helping, lifting up, and using the unlikely things in life, overlooked people in order to show his love, grace, and mercy. That God had from the beginning provided instructions on how his people were to look after those whose society would not provide for or who couldn't provide for themselves. The Old Testament is filled of examples, including famously of the lives of David and Joseph and Moses, of God using unlikely people for his purposes, as well as the story of Naomi and Ruth and the unlikely way that they were provided for, to name just a few. And then in the New Testament, we see the perfection of this in the life of Jesus. Stories that we're going to explore in the new year. Jesus calling for the care of the orphaned and the widowed, saying that serving the least was actually the highest honor because it was serving him. This theme continued in his ministry by using the unlikely to teach lessons to those who should have known better and were more prominent members of their community. Jesus highlighting children and women and outcasts, the poor, the traditional enemies of his people, the uneducated and the sick, who showed trust and faithfulness as examples others were to follow because of who they had faith in and who they were following. This, I believe, was the purpose of Mary's carol, the basis of the peace that she felt in taking on this unlikely role. That she knew she was serving a faithful God who had done far more with far less before, who would do it again through her and the life that she would bring, who has done it since then through the rest of our biblical text, and who wants to do it again right now with us. Because while he most likely is not going to send an angel to speak with us, he's probably not going to ask any of us to parent his Messiah again. He still today is looking for people willing to live for his purposes. People who might be questioning, when I saw John Cena's name, why me? Or Mary did in the early moments, how can you use me right now? He's still offering opportunities for us to accept, and a peace that surpasses all human understanding for those willing to step up for him and live our lives for his will instead of our own. For people willing to use their gifts and abilities for his glory, who will see their time, their talents, and their treasures, our gifts, as gifts from him, and so make them available to him in service. Who, like John Cena, can see that our professional life is a platform for our personal ministry. Who seek to see where the skills learned in school or the workforce or volunteering or that don't seem to apply can be utilized in the church and for ministry for him. People willing to step up where needed in order to see his kingdom come. To offer themselves in leadership and service, in conducting a class where others can learn specific skills or gain some assistance. God is still looking for unlikely people willing to put their wants and desires aside to follow his calling to full-time ministry as a Salvation Army officer, or to other full-time ministry in the Salvation Army or another Christian organization. Unlikely people willing to stay where they are, but to use their platform, their opportunities to demonstrate his goodness, love, and grace for others. He's still taking a chance on the unlikely and calling us to the extraordinary. And friends, he's still asking us to care for the oppressed, to look after the overlooked, the worn down, the beaten up, the degraded and broken people in our world. He's still calling us to offer hope in the most hopeless situations, joy in circumstances where it doesn't seem humanly possible, peace where there is nothing but chaos, and love where every human emotion would point to hate. And while he can do these things on his own, he's still calling you and I as individuals and as a church family here this Christmas to be part of that life-changing, eternity-shaping work that he has going on to care for the overlooked. He's calling us to do our part over the next few days as around 375 families are going to come through those doors looking for Christmas assistance. Perhaps to be here as a volunteer if you've signed up for that, or to pray where you are over the next couple days for those volunteers and clients as they share time together, that they would see Jesus, that they would feel his love and his presence in their lives, and that they would leave, yes, with toys and a gift card, but more than that, they would leave with hope. Or to get out and stand by the kettle, to sing or play some carols of hope, joy, peace, or love. Or if you don't have the musical gift, then offer a warm smile, a kind greeting, a heartfelt thank you, or just stand there and hear someone who's maybe struggling and just needs someone to listen to them. Visit with or call or email or send a card to the person or family that you haven't seen in a while who's shut in or struggling with illness or injury, sick or trying to avoid getting sick because of what it could do to them or the people that they love. Offer support to the family struggling to get by or seeking to find something new. Choose this Christmas to speak up for the many members of our community who are overlooked, oppressed, misjudged, and judged too harshly because of their gender, their race, their identity, their religion, their social status, their status here in Canada. People the world chooses to divide us from and hold down. To offer to everyone you come into contact with over the next couple of weeks before Christmas a little more hope, a little more joy, a little more peace, and a lot more love. And then to continue that into the new year as well. That we would choose this Christmas to be merciful, to help provide for the hungry, to lift up the humble and the broken down, and be part of the mighty deeds he's completing every day. That we can and need to choose to be the unlikely vessel of God's extraordinary blessings this Christmas. That's the beauty of Mary's carol in the passage we read this morning. That even as young as she was, and in the most imaginable situation she knew, she embraced it. It's the most powerful thing we can wrap our minds around in these days, and how we can make this a Mary, M-A-R-Y, but also M-E-R-R-Y Christmas for us and others too. And yes, it's the legacy, whether he knows it or not, of the career of WWE superstar John Cena as well. That God has, is, and will use the unlikely in us, through us, and who we are to provide hope, peace, joy, and love to the overlooked in his world. The question that you and I need to ask ourselves today and every day is, are we willing to be seen, to never give up? Are we willing to follow him?